I am really excited to talk with you today about communication. And it's something I feel really passionate about. And I'm going to just read a little story to you. Well, you know what? I tell you what I want to do is, Lori Thompson, are you on? Interviewed Lori Thompson last night for our team time booking, our bingo game. And we talked a little bit about her success in the month of December. And, I feel like I left a couple of I's undotted and T's not crossed. And I want to share with you her income. Now, you probably see the consultant corner on your screen, right? Do y'all see that?
Yep.
Now, do all of you know how to get here?
Yes.
I know it sounds like a silly question, but I want to make sure everybody knows how to get there because I want you to know how to go and look at your money, right? Okay. All right. So so I'm going to go into performance details, and I'm going to click on previous month because we're talking about December. And I want you to see that here she did 3 cooking shows and 3 catalog shows, and she had a total of $51.57 in sales. It's really impressive, isn't it?
Yep. You didn't click on it though, Karen.
I didn't click on it.
No, it's still consultant connection page.
That's odd. Okay, I'm going to stop the share and I'll come back to this one. So it doesn't change with me.
Oh, there it goes.
Okay, all right. Thank you for telling me that.
Mm-hmm.
And all right, anyway, so here you see that she did $51.57 in sales. And do you see what her paycheck is there? Beautiful. Who said that?
I did.
Who's I?
Mary.
Mary. Okay, Mary, would an extra $1,392 come in handy for you?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, and she did 6 shows, 3 catalog and 3 live. And I know she had a nice big show. But what I really want you to think about is that there is great money when you have a great month. And do any of you keep track of how much money you make per hour?
Never thought about it.
Okay. And why do you think that is important?
To tell people how little you're working and how much you're making. Because I figured mine out a few times, and it comes to almost $50 an hour, which is way more than what I make in my full-time job.
It is. And again, so it's really important. This is a really important part of communication. Because whenever we are in front of people, we want to be a good example of, what our Pampered Chef business represents. And especially if you care about, building your business, number 1, and of course, building your team, number 2. Because the people that you're in front of, do you think that the people, since Mary, you're talking to me, Mary, when you're doing a Pampered Chef party, how many people in the audience do you think that are making $50 an hour?
Probably none.
Maybe 1, so we do have, some doctors, we have attorneys and stuff that come to our parties.
Oh, but I haven't had any at mine, but that's okay.
Okay. So how do you think that the person who is sitting in your audience, if you say to them nonchalantly, I averaged $50 an hour last month with my Pampered Chef business?
Oh, I think they'd love it.
Especially if you preface it by saying, I'm really looking for some self-starters to join my business. And, if you've ever dreamt of having your own business and being your own boss, I just want you to know I averaged about $50 an hour last month. So I really encourage you every time you get in front of people, you talk about that because, again, it's communication. People don't know this unless you tell them, right?
Correct.
Before I lose the screen, I just want to point out, again, her check was $13.92. Now, I personally, and again, I have not been convinced with virtual parties that the number is different, but I think it's fair to average 4 hours per show. A live cooking show should be about 4 hours between the time you do some host coaching and your host packets and getting prepared for your shows at the time at your shows, and then then some time closing your party. It should be about 4 hours. Would anybody disagree with me on that?
That's good.
It's
Okay.
good, unless you get a group that never stops talking, then you're stuck there a little longer. So
yeah, that does happen. And sometimes it happens a lot faster too. Sometimes you get in and get out
it just
faster.
depends. But average, 4 hours.
So, and again, and I see Lori Coleman. Hi, Lori, you're on. Is that Bianca on too?
Yes, hi.
And if you have any other, I don't know when you came in, but again, I would love some input, and if you would like to, give us an idea of how much time you feel you spend doing a virtual party. Usually the first one of the month, or when you're doing your template, that takes the longest, and once you have that kind of going, it doesn't take that much longer, and it's kind of the law of diminishing returns as you add parties to your virtual parties to your schedule that month. Does that make sense, Lori?
Yeah, I use the same template for about 3 months. I just go in there and change the specials and games and, anything like that.
Shake it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I have Post My Party that posts all of my posts for me, so I don't have to worry about that during the day. And so I just go in there and comment, pretty much once in the morning, once at night, see what everybody's I've been commenting on and things like that, and just kind of talk to them and everything. And then I do mine a little bit different. So I do the 1 hour Facebook parties.
That's right. Okay. So that helps a lot,
Yeah.
But I think it's really important for you to know. And so if you need help figuring that out, please let me know. But I was showing you Lori's check, and it really was $58 an hour that she made. So, and she acted so nonchalant, like she really didn't do much, and it just happened, but we know that there's more skill that goes into it than that. So anyway, I'm going to jump around a little bit, and I really apologize because there's so many things I want to tell you about communication. Can any of you give me an example? Can you think of a time when you feel like communication was very poor and it made you realize how important communication is?
Yes, definitely.
Can you think of a time, Bianca, that you can tell us about?
Yeah, sometimes when you're texting or not having a face-to-face communication or even on the phone, so nonverbal communication is huge, and you can't convey that via text or post. So sometimes it can be misconstrued, using too much exclamation marks or all caps, for example.
Yeah, it's two-dimensional, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And for some of you who are much, much younger than I am, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between the types of communication, and there isn't anything like the phone. And sometimes we really try to avoid the phone, but the phone is where you can hear intonation, or of course the best thing is talking in person. You can't hug anybody over the phone or through a text or through an email, but you can on one-on-one. But people, there is intonation in your voice, and and even nonverbal communication is really, really important. So anyway, thank you for sharing that, Bianca. I think it's important for us to think about communication in terms of our hosts, in terms of our customers, in terms of our team. And our team would be our upline, our sister team, and our downline team that we're developing. And so those, communication is important in all of those ways. I think we're going to dwell most on with our hosts, but one of the things I learned, and have you ever heard, this kind of goes back to when I first started with Pampered Chef. If someone said to me, "Oh, I could never do what you do." Do you ever hear that? I could never do what you do. Okay.
Yeah.
The thing about it is first of all, our ego senses, "Oh, I'm really good. She can't do what I do." But that's not really, we want them putting themselves in our spot. And I I have a little story. I'm getting some feedback. I have a little story about I had a consultant. Her name was Julie Chamberlain. Some of you might remember Julie Chamberlain. And I remember she really wanted to be a director, and she was working so hard, and I really couldn't figure out why she was struggling so hard to earn her directorship. And she called me and she said, Karen, I did a party last night, and I was happened to be having a training meeting that night when I lived down in the Detroit area. And she said, I heard my past host say that she was going to sign up with another company. Could have been, I don't know, could have been Country Living or whatever, Southern Living or whatever. And she really got upset because she said, I talked with this host about signing up. And now she's saying she's signing up with somebody else. Well, so she kind of got mad. She says, why the hell are you, why the hell are you signing up with, Southern Living? And the person said, because I could never do what you do. Because you're too perfect, So she invited her to come to the meeting, but she couldn't be there. So I said, bring her, I'll take care of her, we'll take her. And I was doing a demo. Well, by the time this person left, she's like, I can do what she does because, I'm not perfect, right? Colleen, see me. I just throw stuff. I just have a good time. And again, it's that communication about the air that you're setting when people are watching what you're doing and how people perceive you. Our ego wants to hear, you're so wonderful, you're so wonderful. But when I saw Nancy Jo Ryan do a video, and this was back in 1993, which was bad video, and I'm like, that's a good demo, but it's not any better than my demo. And she's making over $100,000 a year. And so it was like me saying, if she can do it, I can do it. And so that's the duplication that you want with your business. Certainly, we want you to feel good about what you're doing. You want you to own it. You want you to own your success. But the key is, communicating what a great business this is, that it really is not difficult. And of course, then make it not difficult, which is sometimes hard because I think that sometimes we overcomplicate things. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions about anything I've talked about so far? Okay.
Yeah, it's good.
No, Karen, I like that. But I also like to tell people too, and I've been learning a lot, is just what other people can bring to the table. Me and Bianca, we talk like almost every day, and she has some great tips, and I used one of her tips today, and I got a booking. The party hasn't even started yet. So just, we're all human, and we're all learning this together. And even though I've been doing it for 8 years, and Bianca's pretty new, her tips are amazing, and
Thank you.
I'm no better than anybody else. It's just, we're all learning together and just sharing everything.
That's really good. And you're so right. Bianca is a shot of adrenaline for you and your team, and all of our new consultants are, because we all have things. Sometimes I forget what it was like to start as a new consultant. It's been 27 years almost.
Wow.
So, that shot of adrenaline, you're so right, Lori, and we all learn from each other. And, and again, sometimes some things we might have learned and forgot, I don't know, we do. Yeah. So that's terrific. So what I was going to say is this: when I first started, one of the things like I could never do what you do. I would respond, well, if you can open up a can of crescent rolls, you're a perfect consultant, right? Well, what I learned, we don't learn communication skills. I mean, at least I didn't as well as I should have in high school. And what I've learned is a check for understanding. And there's a step that's missing in terms of being empathetic about what someone is telling you. And I've had to work really hard at this. You guys, I'm a data processor, right? I was black and white. It was either on or off. And so I've had to learn really hard, I've had to learn the hard way, how to be empathetic. And I'll talk about that again in just a second. But so to check for understanding, it might be something like, well, gosh, what did I do that you don't think you could do? Or somebody might say, I'm really shy. Really? Is it something you would like to get over? I understand how you feel. I have people on my team who felt that way, or I have felt that way, depending on, how being honest, if it's honestly something that you felt. Or I have a friend that felt that way, and this is what she did, and now she's a very successful consultant. So check for understanding. Try to put yourself in their place and acknowledge their feelings. And I think that is something that is really important. And I quite frankly, I think it's lacking a lot in today's world. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that I remember when I felt that I realized one of the things I was missing in my business was I felt like I needed to be more empathetic. And I went to Nancy Jo Ryan, who is the most empathetic person I know, or at least I knew at that time, because we have lots of great empathetic people on our team. But of course, our team was not that big at that time. And I went to Nancy Jo Ryan and I said, Nancy, how can I be more empathetic? I mean, I care about people, but I don't show it that well. And she's like, Karen, read the book. Anybody know what I'm going to say? What book I'm going to say? I meant to grab it.
7 Love Languages?
The 5 Love Languages.
Mm-hmm.
And that book will transform how you communicate with people. Because, for instance, I might want to buy Ashley some flowers. And I love lilacs, So I might buy lilacs for Ashley, and she'll say, well, thank you. That's really nice. But in reality, she might want to have daisies instead. So it's really important to and so that's what that book really, talks about, what, and we learned about this too with Pampered Chef, with Tony Alessandra, and learning what the platinum rule is, because the golden rule is do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. But the platinum rule is do unto others as they would want you to do unto them.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
So my first party, because I'm very much an advocate of the 5 love languages, one of my raffles is actually posting that link and having the guests comment what their love language is.
Really?
So it's fun, but for them, but I also get to know if they like words of affirmation or acts of service, and then I can cater my party to them in that respect. And it's free.
That is
Okay,
amazing.
where have you been?
Honest to Pete. Honest to Pete.
I'm telling you, she has awesome tips, guys. That is amazing.
So that's one of the first posts, so I can gauge what the party's gonna be like, and that creates more interaction.
It sure does. It really sets the tone too.
And it also helps not only for the party, but it helps people gain awareness and insight for themselves, for their family.
And that's what is so cool about our business, sharing like that. I'll bet you reach people who have never even heard of it. And it's such an important, it's such a, it really enriches your life.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you, Bianca. Gosh, that's awesome. Well, anyway, there's communication for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing I just wanted to mention to you, of course, do any of you feel like you struggle when you're out and about and you're talking with people and you're not sure what to say or where to go?
Never.
Yeah, I know that you.
No. I'm with Maureen.
Yeah. And for some of you, again, we're recording this, and hopefully we have some people who are listening, because one of the things that was really helpful that we had with some training with Pampered Chef years ago, Maureen, you'll probably remember this, is, of course, where you always start when you're trying to build your business is with your list of 100 or 100 contacts, because you want to, always have a resource for you so you're not talking to the same people all the time. But when you're talking with someone and you meet them and they'll say, well, what do you do for a living? Or, what's up with you? And you might say, do you know how it's hard today to get dinner on the table for your family? Time is so precious. And they'll say, well, yeah, I do know how that is. Well, what I do is I show people how to make quick meals for their family. And you can go on with, whatever you might see about them that you can relate the conversation to. So I think it's important to remember the 2 statements, do you know how, and what I do is. Sometimes, and again, depending on the person I'm talking to, it might be, do you know how a lot of people are struggling to make ends meet? Well, what I do is I help people create an income. So, just remember those two statements and see if you can't make a little game with yourself about how you can use that when you're talking with people. Anything anyone wants to add to that?
Belinda Ellingsworth said something really great, and I won the bingo CD from you. Thank you.
Oh, good.
She said, come up with your 30-second elevator speech. So instead of defining yourself as a Pampered Chef consultant, that's not what you do. Mine is, I bring fun and family together in the kitchen again.
Perfect.
Wait.
Yeah, it's really important. The thing, and the thing about it too, Bianca, is that if you don't stop to think about being prepared like that, some people will get tongue-tied and they won't know what to say. And I think that is sometimes why we miss opportunities, is because we're tongue-tied. And I know that was like when you're on an airplane and you're sitting next to somebody. Well, what do you talk about? Well, everybody wants to talk about their family. Everybody wants to talk about themselves. And so you can start the conversation like that. While we're on this subject, I want to talk a little bit about being timid as opposed to being pushy. Is there anyone on the meeting tonight who feels they worry about being pushy? I know some of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We certainly don't want anyone to be pushy. We're not even advocating you to be pushy. But of course, there's a difference between being pushy and being assertive. There's a difference between being aggressive, which I would say is being pushy, and assertive. Being assertive and knowing your boundaries, knowing what you want, why your why is important, which we're not going to talk too much about tonight, but if your why is important, of course, your obstacles are not going to matter. You are going to just go on, whatever obstacle comes your way, just roll off your back like water off a duck. But being pushy being timid is just as bad as being pushy. It's just two ends of the spectrum. So being timid doesn't serve your business any better than being pushy. So I really want you to think about that and think about where you are on that spectrum, and again, work with your communication to get your point across about my business is important to me. My goal to put braces on my kids' teeth is really important to me. So what you say to me, the no you give me, or the obstacle you hand my way is not going to matter, because some will, some won't, so what, who's next, right? And that's really important. Timid and pushy. Anybody see the spectrum with that? Does that help you at all between the spectrum of being timid? Mary, does that help you at all?
Yes. And you have to remember, even when you're on Facebook and you're not talking to people in person, somebody posted this afternoon looking for a quick recipe. What's your favorite go-to? So I just responded. I didn't really know the person. She's a friend of a friend. And I just told her to do a really quick sheet pan dinner. And she's like, well, where do you get those recipes? So then I was able to put in about Pampered Chef and go to my site, and that helped. She was so thankful for it. She's like, wow, those are great.
Perfect. That's awesome.
And I think too is you're not being pushy if you have them as your number one concern.
Mm-hmm.
If you're offering them to get that, like the girl I was talking to today, I just started talking to her, asked her how she knew the host, and asked her if there's anything she needed to be, replaced. And we started, asked her what kind of cooking she did, and so I introduced her to the Rock Crocs. Well, then that's why she booked a March party, because she wants to get the Rock Croc. She wants the whole set. But, I just made it our conversation was just all about her, something that Dawn said at our last meeting was pretty cool too. Bianca might remember this. So we recently, went through the hurricane and everything in September, and Dawn was very hesitant on asking people about doing shows because, and she does nothing but pretty much in-home shows. So she was very almost embarrassed to ask people to have shows because they just lost everything. How am I going to ask somebody to do a party when they just lost everything, you know. And I don't want to come across being pushy, but same thing as in like, let's say somebody needed a new roof, you know, well, they're giving them a service. We are providing a service as well, you know.
Good.
Dawn said, you know, I don't feel sorry for, you know, the people that are, you know, giving everybody new roofs and everything, because they're doing a service, you know. And that's what we're offering too, is just a service.
That's good.
Perfect. It's perfect. So I did want to talk a little bit about your hosts. And have you noticed that in terms of communication, some people like text, some people like Facebook message, some people like the phone, some people like one-on-one, some people like email. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know what people's preference for communication is?
You have to ask.
Yep.
You have to ask, don't you?
And I say, let's make a phone call for your party so we can go over details, and they ignore me. So then I just go to Facebook messaging.
Yeah, I know that's my favorite way. You know, and plus I really like Facebook messaging because I can tell if they read it or not.
Yeah.
But again, you know, of course it depends what you're trying to do, but this is something that we really need to share with our hosts. You know, our hosts feel if we're asking them to text, to email, to send out to send something through the mail, which is a form of communication I forgot to mention. They think we're being pushy. So I think it's important when you're setting up, you know, your party with your host to talk about communication and to say that, you know, again, and they will ask them the question, just like I asked you. Do you feel that it's hard to communicate with people because there are so many methods and people use different methods? Which means we have to use all of those messages or those methods so that we can reach everybody. Because if we just use email, we're going to lose all the people who prefer to text or to email or to Facebook message or to use the phone. All right. So that is a conversation I think you really need to have with your hosts. And I know I've posted something on Joe Peck about that. I need to find that and repost it because I think it's a very important. Your host is not going to send out the invitations if she's hesitant, if she's worried about being pushy, right?
Definitely. The host I spoke to today, I asked her how she wanted to do her invites for her party and asked her if she wanted me to create an event on Facebook so she could reach people that aren't around or that she knows aren't going to come. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, no, all my people, we're going to do everything in person, and I want postcards, and I'll either hand deliver them or mail them. And she said, none of this texting stuff. She said, too many things get misconstrued. I said, okay, whatever you want. So
yeah, well, and I think our hosts rely on our expertise, you know, in my experience. And so, you know, sometimes I try to preface what I'm doing before I get into the conversation, because if I don't, then she says, well, I'm just going to do Facebook. Well, I'm not, you know, and it's hard to say, well, Facebook's just not going to work. You know, if you rely on Facebook, it's just not going to work. Lori, when you do your virtual parties, and Bianca and whoever else, when you do your virtual parties, do you have your host send out invitations too, or just is it all electronic?
Electronic. Just well, Facebook has changed recently. I don't know if you guys know. So you have to instead of adding people into the party, it's best to send them the link to the party because they get in that previewing mode if they did not accept your request. So then you got to delete them completely out of the group and then send them the link to join again. So what I do now is I have a picture that I send the host and tell her to send that picture to 50 people, private message. And then as they say yes, then for her to send them the group link, and then they can ask to join, and then I approve it.
Okay, so that's the trick to And you're talking about using groups, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, that's really specific communication as to how you need that to work. And again, and that's really important. As you build your business, your host is looking to you for your expertise, and you need to, thank you for that tip, Lori.
Yeah, no problem.
You need to have your own system, and when you're host coaching, you're teaching your host how to be a host for you. I might do some things differently than you. And if somebody had a party with me and now they're going to have a party with you, they need to know what those differences are. So feel confident in your experience. And even if you don't feel like you have a lot of experience, you do. You are the expert, and your host is looking to you. I don't know about you, but maybe some of you, when you go to have your hair cut, you have ideas about what you want. But for me, I go to my hairstylist. I'm like, honey, I'm paying you. Do what you think is going to look best on me. I'm looking for her guidance. I'm looking for her ideas, and some I'm gonna, but that's what I pay them for. One of the things I want to again reiterate is communication with your team. You guys, we cannot succeed as a team if we don't have good communication. I mean, that's just the bottom line. We need our team to be cohesive. We need everybody to communicate what you want from your business and what you want to accomplish, because if you're reaching your goals, we're all reaching our goals. And so it's really important to keep in touch with your upline. When you're invited to meetings, respond, even if it's no. Just let I don't know about any of you, but I set up a meeting schedule, and I know everybody can't make it 100% of the time, and that doesn't upset me. It upsets me when it's never, when they never come, and then they want help, but it just communicate and be honest. And again, because that's of course what you would want from people too. If you appreciate it when your hosts have RSVPs and you know how many to expect, don't you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, that serve as a model for that. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to talk about. I have one more thing I wanted to talk about. And of course, good communication also has a lot to do with listening, right? And so it's really important to listen to what's going on at your shows. And I think that this is, in terms of virtual parties, I think this is so different. And Laura, I'm sure you probably are great at interacting with people. When in virtual parties, when you see likes, do you do anything with likes, or do you just communicate with people because of comments?
Comments.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
and of course the people that are commenting are liking. Most of the time that I've been finding out.
Okay. And I think about looking at comments is kind of like listening at your parties, and to me, the more we can replicate a live party in a virtual situation, again, the more success you're going to have. When I'm at a live party, I'm trying to listen to what people are saying. So if I'm at someone's house and I hear someone talk about how their husband got laid off or they hate their job, I might not directly talk with them about that, but in my demonstration, I can talk about, I have friends who just hate their job and wonder, how they can make a little extra money, again, if your boss promised you $500 extra if you worked one night extra a week, would you do it? And most people would. So those kinds of things you can toss and sprinkle into your shows, and of course do the same thing with your virtual parties as well. Maureen, I saw Maureen posted a chat. Yeah, when you are in person, are you muted, Maureen? When you are in person, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you speak. That's very true.
Years ago, Karen, I can definitely agree with what you say about listening to people talk. There was a gal there that came in with a newborn baby, she didn't want to go back to work, and she was talking about that, and she left a consultant that night.
Yeah.
Signed her up.
Sign her up.
Just have to listen.
Yeah. Now we just have a few more minutes left, and Maureen, if you look up on your wall, do you still have that that saying about how many contacts it takes?
I don't.
Look up, way up at the ceiling. It's not up there. It used to be up there.
We painted. I had to take everything down.
Oh, I know. Well, and you know, I will find that. I will post that about how many times. How many times did you give up before you reached a yes? And we're going to talk about that. But I do want to. We talked about this the other night, and your roadmap for success. And while this is a talk about dreams, it says a lot to me about communication too, and I'll talk about that. I'm just going to start. A dream puts everything we do into perspective. Even the tasks that aren't exciting or immediately rewarding take on added value when we know they ultimately contribute to the fulfillment of a dream. Each activity promotes, it becomes an important piece of the bigger picture. Well, there's a story of a reporter who talked to 3 construction workers pouring concrete at a building site. The reporter asked, "What are you doing?" to the first worker. He says, "Well, I'm earning a paycheck," he grumbled. The reporter asked the same question of the second laborer, who looked over his shoulder and said, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm pouring concrete. Then he noticed the third man, who was smiling and whistling as he worked. "What are you doing?" he asked the third worker. He stopped what he was doing and said excitedly, "I am building shelter for the homeless." He wiped his hands clean on a rag and then pointed. "Look, over there is where the kitchen will be, and that over there is where the women's dormitory will be. And then this here, this here will be here." He went on to really share what he was working on. And, each person was doing the same job, but only the third was motivated by a larger vision. The work he did was fulfilling a dream, and it added value to all his efforts. So I think it's really important for you in terms of communication to show your enthusiasm for what you're doing and what you want from your business. And so I hope that story just is a little demonstration on, the differences, and really think about, how you can amp it up just a little bit. I hope you've had a little bit of insight in terms of if one idea will change your whole life, then maybe communication will make a difference for you. But communication is a two-way street. It's just as much my responsibility to make sure you understand what I said as it is for you to understand, so we do work at that together. So I have a little assignment for you. I'll post it tomorrow. There's a little video I'd like you to see. And I hope you're all going to watch that Stephen Drapowski video that I posted earlier this week. I see you're shaking your head, Billy Joe. Did you watch it? Oh, she's muted.
I watched part of it this afternoon, but then was interrupted with family getting home, so I can't wait to get back to it.
Okay. Lori, have you had a chance to watch it?
No, not yet.
Okay, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on that too.
Okay.
So, anyway, you guys, again, we're gonna click out here, but thanks a lot for being on the call, and I look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks
Bye
for
now. Have a good week.